giving you a vocational leg up on everyone else. Here's our career Sherpa, Julie Bauke.
All right, believe it. Sloaney here, 700 WLW. And this young lady named Emily Clough applied for a marketing coordinator position at a business startup called Masterminds. That's an outfit out of Texas. Anyway, she applies for the job. The company rep says, hey, you know what? It looks like might be a good fit. We suggest that you friend us on Instagram. So go ahead and like us. So she gets Instagram, and at some point, she starts following them. And then she starts scrolling through their Instagram, and she sees a photo of a young lady in a red two-piece bathing bikini suit. That by the way, there's a lot of underboob going on in this thing. And whoever owns this body's hot. And she goes, hey, wait a minute. That's me. And the image of her on the company's Instagram feed had some graphics put on it saying this. Here's a public service announcement, because I know some of you applicants are looking at this. Do not share your social media with a potential employer if this is the kind of content on it. I'm looking for a professional marketer, not a bikini model. And at the bottom it says, go on with your bad self and do whatever in private, but this is not doing you any favors in finding a professional job. And she was mortified that picture of her in a bikini became an ad for the company saying, this is what you shouldn't do. Julie Bauke, our career Sherpa on the show on 700 WLW. What's your thoughts on this story?
Well, the first thing I did was go back to my Instagram feed and take all of my bikini shots down.
Yes. The ones with the underboob? Those are my favorite.
There's so many things wrong here. The company, first and foremost, was absolutely wrong for shaming her and using a picture of her as an example of what not to do. You know, you could have had the same thing without the picture and said, you know, look, companies like us are looking at your social media and deciding whether or not you exhibit the proper judgment to work in our company. If you are doing these 6 things, we're probably not going to call you back. Gotcha. That would have had the same effect. But who in the world thinks it's okay to take somebody else, to take a real person, a real applicant's picture, and put it on your feed to shame that person? I mean, they were wrong.
Well, I don't know. If you're looking for real-world examples, you often will give examples of what not to do in job interviews. Now, granted, you're not using a real-life image of someone, but
exactly.
If it's out there in the social realm, then it's free game. So why is that a bad thing?
Well, first of all, they were a little bit duplicitous because they said, follow us on Instagram, and then they knew she'd follow her back. So what they were doing was, which is what a lot of people do, a lot of companies do this a lot, they go out and they look at all your social media accounts to see if you've got racist, sexist tweets or pictures, inappropriate pictures or memes, and because people do want to know who they're hiring. And that's legitimate and it's real, and it is absolutely happening everywhere. I hear stories like that every week of companies rescinding job offers or deciding not to make an offer based on something they saw on social media. So that as a standalone is a practice. We could argue that all day, but it's absolutely a practice. But where I think where they stepped over the line was taking something off of an actual applicant's feed and using her as an example. I think that goes over the line, and I just think it just makes me cringe when I think of that because they really are, publicly shaming her, and there's nothing good to come out of it. So there's no upside for the company, and I think you've got to think like that when you're getting ready to put something like that out there. There's plenty of downside, as they found out, but there's no upside to doing that.
Yeah, okay, I get that. And furthermore, the name of the company, this is the best, is we want professionals. The name of the company is called Kick-Ass Mastermind. That's the better part about this is that, wait, you're talking about being offensive. I mean, granted, ass is not the bad word that used to be, but you're calling yourself Kick-Ass Mastermind, which sounds to me like you're a little more cutting edge.
Well, yeah, I mean, at least you have an irreverent sense of humor.
Yeah, right.
Your company,
I thought you'd be cool with this, right?
Yeah.
That's funny.
But, at the same, so the other side of that is you get to decide what you put on your social media, but you're not free from the consequences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right? Which is what you've been preaching a long time. It's like, listen, you put it out there. But she would think this is rather tasteful. Now, granted, there's some underboob. She looks good in the bikini, but It's like saying, okay, well, I could see if it was like, a nude shot, something along those lines, sexually suggested. But here's an attractive woman in a bikini. Why is that out of bounds in this day and age when I can get a lot worse things on my phone?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so they might, and maybe that isn't the only thing they saw that they didn't like. But, if your feed, okay, so I've got friends who are using social media for dating.
Yeah.
All the apps, the dating apps. And if all of your pictures are bikini shots, you will probably attract a different kind of man who's looking for something different than if you are posting mostly tasteful shots. Okay. It's just you get to decide what you put out there in the world about yourself. Mm-hmm. And you decide what you value and what you want people to value about you. And each one of us gets to make that decision, and each one of us lives with the consequences, fair or not fair. It's just how it is.
All right. Now, let me switch this up, Julie Bauke, because there's another element to this. And tomorrow, or today, I guess I should say, Cincinnati City Council is going to vote on an ordinance that would create a ban on hair discrimination. I'm sure you've heard about this, right? So the ordinance
I have a little bit, yeah.
All right, so the ordinance says this. Basically, it's based on hairstyles that are commonly associated with African Americans, what it says in the language, but includes texture and style and things like that, which I never thought that was a big deal, but I'm an old white guy, so I have no idea. I had my friend India Jones, who is a young African American lady, and she said this is a huge deal for women especially, which I had no idea that there's a real issue when it comes to hair identity and the politics of it. And Chris Seelbach is introducing legislation to prevent discrimination, to include this in there. So the bikini thing isn't fair game, or I guess is fair game if that's how you decide to dress. What about the hair issue? Because, you could say, well, that's why my hair is naturally. I don't know. As I've said, there's not a woman in the world who likes their own hair. Conversely, if there's pushback from, because I don't know what the big deal is. Hair, I'm a guy. I don't really, some guys care a little bit about hair. I guess if you have really bad hair, that's one thing, but it's more the natural look and dreadlocks and braids and things, which don't offend me at all. I mean, that's, some people it looks good on, some people it doesn't. But the point is here, we're going to protect that. How does that relate to what we're talking about here in the workplace?
That is a great question. I am not I am not informed on whether natural hair or hairstyle is an issue in hiring or not. I just don't know. I don't know enough about it. I think we're getting into a really tricky time right now where we have people who present in a lot of different ways, and that will conflict sometimes with the image that employers want to convey to their customers. And right. I think it's gray, it's messy, and there's no clear answer. If you are neat and clean and you're presenting mostly professionally, then I think employers probably have to relax what they consider to be acceptable. Yeah. There has to be some give on both sides.
I guess it depends on, I would say this, right? It's going to depend on the company and who it is they're trying to target to. And not only that, but also even within that company, the role of the individual. I'll give you an example.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's say I'm going to hire somebody who's going to provide home health care for seniors. Okay. If you have bright pink hair and a bunch of gauges and nose rings and all that stuff, do you really think that someone who's in their 80s is going to be open to that person coming in their house?
They would be. Yes, I think it would take some getting used to.
Right. Right. Now, is that discrimination based on what your hair is, according to this? Yes, but at the same time, it's like this is a generational thing, and I'm comfortable with it because I know a lot of people that have, gauges and nose piercings and multicolored hair that seemingly changes every day. It doesn't bother me at all. I don't care. I care about the person, not what they look like. But nonetheless, I know that older people, that's a thing for them. It's a concern. Point being, there's a player for the Penn State, and I'm sure you saw on social, this thing blew up, that I guess a fan or a booster wrote a letter, and I'm not sure if it's been verified it's an actual person and not a bot, but anyway, fired off a handwritten or a letter to this player saying, listen, the dreadlocks that you're wearing are abhorrent, and they're wrong, and it looks like crap, and it makes the team look like crap. Your play has been great, but change your hair. It's terrible. Now, I don't know what kind of busybody does that to a player, but it fits into this whole hair bias issue that we're talking about in City Council today.
Yeah, and if you're a college football player, so you're 18 to 22 years old, and you have dreadlocks, no, but to me that is such a non-issue. But everybody's got their own kind of line in which that they draw,
right.
Because clearly this person who wrote this, they have spent some real time thinking about this. I look at that and I say, okay, you're a college student, you're an athlete, and you have dreadlocks. Big whoop.
You're supposed to
right.
do that when you're in college, right?
Right. As long as it doesn't get in the way of you doing what you've been brought to Penn State to do, back off. That's the kind of stuff. There's always those edges. There's always those
right.
fringes.
Well, would you see a Bengal cheerleader that had a BMI of 50? The answer, of course, is no. Why are all the Bengal cheerleaders have very low body fat and high muscle volume? Why is it? Is it coincidence? It's the image that the team wants to project when it comes to cheerleaders.
Yeah.
Is hair but is hair any different in that regard, Julie?
Well, all the Bengal cheerleaders have long hair too. You don't see any with pixie cut either, if that's even a thing anymore. So they all have long hair as well. And I would imagine that's not a coincidence either. Maybe some of them have extensions. I don't know, but you're right. It's a part of the image, but that's that fine line, and I think that's what's still being, and part of it is generational, but that's what's still being worked out. How much leeway do you have as an employer to make hiring decisions based on things other than how somebody can do the job? Look what's in front of the Supreme Court. Can you be fired for being gay or bi or trans?
Right.
That is being deliberated right now, and to me, to my opinion, no, you shouldn't be able to. Can you do the job?
I don't know how your sexual orientation, I'm trying to think of maybe a job where that would come into play, unless you're working at like an adult club, but still, it's like, how would you know? I mean, hair is one thing, and I get it when it comes to pink hair and gauges that, if you're black and you let your hair grow up naturally, or you put it in rows or braids, whatever, that's just called, that's natural hair. That's different than making a decision to color your hair, but it's also part of the same fabric, right, too, is how much your own personal styling and how much your personal, what makes you, what is the Venn diagram overlap with what the employer is looking for? I think that's a critical question.
Absolutely. And there is absolutely first impression bias. It's been proven by people way smarter than us about how we have first impression bias and what the decisions we make about people, even subconsciously, when we first meet them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we all do it.
Yeah.
And it goes to, and so employers know that. And so, rightly so, an employer, if you show up every Monday morning and talk about how drunk you got all weekend, an employer can rightly assume that you may not have the judgment to go meet with their
right.
most important customer.
Right.
But that's a behavior. I mean, that's something that you have demonstrated. But if you're gay and you're like, well, I don't think this customer likes gay people, to me that is wrong.
No, how would you know either? It's unless, you're wearing an I'm gay shirt or something like that. But who cares?
Yeah. So, and I'm sure there's lots of people who are listening right now who are like, I agree with that, I don't agree with that. So the thing is, we all come to these moments with a lifetime of experiences and biases, and we see these things very differently, and so it's TBD for sure.
It's kind of a fine line, and what image the employer wants to project and what they want to put out there for their frontline employees, whether it's a restaurant or in this case a marketing firm, versus what our rights are and being who we are naturally, and I guess it's an age-old issue. It's probably something that just continues to evolve generation to generation. There's more of a generation gap than anything to me. But Julie Bauke, our career Sherpa, I know you have a podcast too, right?
I just launched my podcast. It's called The Evolved Career, and I interview people whose careers have evolved with their lives and have made their careers matter to them. And my first guest was our very own Paul Daugherty. So you can he talks about his career, so you can find The Evolved Career any place you find podcasts.
Are you on Paul Daugherty's show every week?
You're no, I'm not.
Well,
do you want to come on and talk about your fascinating career?
no, I don't. Julie Bauke, we'll talk again.
You want to know.
You didn't see that coming. Please tell me you saw that coming. I set that joke up pretty good. No, I don't want to.
No, I didn't.
No,
you got me. You got me speechless for once.
Complex. No, that's good. So you'll be. Is it surely an interview thing, or you just rant once in a while? Okay, all right. So
it's an interview. Every other week I'm going to be launching them.
Oh, good.
So I've got some fascinating people lined up.
It's good to see you working again.
Finally.
Julie Bauke, our career Sherpa, the finest career advice in the land at the Bauke,
Gotcha.
BAUK, thebaukegroup.com. Jules, let's talk next week. Thanks again.